This
For
conference will now be recorded.
anything that you are doing in advanced things, like you are going for Python database connectivity, and you are going for Django. For all these things, OOPS concepts are important. Okay, so basically, OOPS concepts means we will start with understanding class object. Okay, so OOPS concepts. Okay, so first we will be understanding what is class, what is object. Then we will be understanding the other principles also. Okay, right. Uh, Basically, we will define OOP first. OOP stands for what? OOP stands for object oriented programming. Object oriented programming. So OOP stands for object oriented programming. So whenever we are talking about OOP here, OOP stands for object oriented programming. So whenever I'm saying OOP, OOP is basically for uh, maintaining some standard, basically maintaining some standard. Okay, so a programming language, or I'll say directly Python. Python is said to be Python is said to be an OOP since it is based on two basic programming concepts. Two basic programming concepts. One is class. First one is what? Class. And the second one is, okay, what is the first one? First one is going to be class. Second one is going to be, so second one is going to be what? Second one is going to be object. So class and object. So what are the two concepts? Totally object oriented programming will be based on class and object. So class, object. So it will depend on class and it will depend on object. Other things they are there, but we will see later. Okay. So first we will talk about a class. Right. A class is a logical entity. A class is a logical entity. So logical entity. So where an entity refers to a person, place, a thing, or an event. Okay, so what we are talking about, sir, here? So basically, entity means a person, a place, a thing, or an event. So class is a logical entity where entity refers to a person, place, a thing, or an event. So generally, we call it as logical entity. So it is the base or a blueprint. Is a base or a blueprint for creating the objects. Okay, so now for uh, example, like say, now for example, if I'm taking employee class, which class? Employee. So employee is a person. So employee class. So which class here? Employee. So employee is a person. For example, place. Let's say bank. Okay. So bank, employee, bank. Let's say think something like a product. Okay. And event something like sales. Employee, employee, bank, product, sales. So these are all the classes. These are all logically built. They are not physical. They are not physical. They are logical. So then who are the physical things? The objects are the physical things. Okay. Right. So second one is object. So what is object now? An object is a physical entity. An object is a physical entity. So an object is a physical entity. Entity means again person, place, and everything, right? Okay. Now it is said to be an instance of the class. It is said to be an instance of the class. An object is a physical entity. It is said to be an instance of a class. Instance of a class. Yes. Okay. Now, for example, I will say something like Rahul. So Rahul is the object of category, employee category. This general meaning. Programmatically, things will be a little bit different. Okay, bank. Suppose if I'm saying HDFC, HDFC is a bank. Okay. So Lenovo is a product. Lenovo is a product. Okay. So sales. So sales means like for example, if I am saying something like book sale, book sale. It is an event. So book sale. So book sale is an object. So like that, we will have the objects for every class. There will be object. For every class, there will be object. So there is no object in this world without a class. Now, for example, this is an object of bottle class. This is an object of mobile class. This is an object of laptop class. Like that, every object in the world will have a class. Okay, without class, we cannot. Right. So then the next thing is how we can work with a class and object in Python. Okay. In Python, we have two types of classes. Two types of classes. Okay. One is predefined class. First one is what? Predefined class. Already defined. Already defined. Second one is going to be user defined class. Okay, already you worked with so many classes. Okay, I'll tell you. So predefined class means the class which is the class which is already created, okay, in the Python environment. Already created in the Python environment. So the class which is already created in the Python environment. So the class which is already created in the Python environment. So we have created already a class. We have created already a class. Okay. So that we will use. Okay. Which can be reused by creating its object. Creating its object. So I'll give you a simple example. Now 4 comma 8 comma 9 comma 3 comma 2. What is this 48932? You know, it is an object of list class. Okay, it is an object of list class. So how, sir, how you can prove? Okay, let me prove it. Okay, so now I will go for, okay, again I came back to spider. Okay, so 48932. So Django, we will go with PyCharm. Okay, I'll tell you how to install and all later. So after election, we will be starting Django. I already told you. Okay, so 48932. Okay, so on Saturday I may not be available. Okay, so you can also plan according to that. So 48932. What is 48932 here? It is an object of list class. It is an object of list class. So how can I say, sir? Now say ls is equal to 48932. ls is equal to 48932. So now if I'm saying print of ls, print of ls. So if I'm saying print of ls, this is a list. We already know this. Now I'm telling you that this is an object of list class. So how I'm telling, sir? Now simply I will say print of type of ls. Now if you observe, This is nothing but list class. Understood now? Yes or no? So this is the example for letting you know that this is a object of the list class. Object of which class? Object of the list class. Understanding my point? Yes or no? So what we are talking about here? So we are talking about, okay. Okay, so what we are talking about here? So we are talking about, uh, okay, one second. Okay, so what we are talking about here? So we are talking about 48932. It is an object of which class I told you? List class. So ls is equal to 48932. So type of ls. So what is the type of ls here? So type of ls, it is class list. So it is of which class? It is of list class. It is of which class? List class. So basic idea here is to have, so basic idea is to have a class, create an object of a particular class. Now tuple you take, str you take, int you take, float, everything is object. Everything is object. So that is why it is called as object oriented programming. Object oriented programming. Is that clear? Yes. Understanding my point? So this is what we say for a predefined class. Predefined class. So you need to create the object and use it. So on this object, you will have some methods basically. Yes or no? So on this, you will have some methods. Methods, you can have data and all those things. Right? So every class will have some methods. Every class will have some methods which can be used on the objects, which can be used on the object. So for example, I want to use some append method. So what I can say, ls dot append of 9. So ls dot append of 9, if I say, what is it doing? It is working on that object. It is working on that object. So it is just a name basically. ls is the name, like we are all objects. We have a name, no? So ls is its name, but real object is this one. Real object is this one. So this object is assigned to ls. Now what we have to do, you have to create the classes. So next topic is what? User defined classes. Next topic is user defined classes. So where you create the classes, where a programmer create the classes. These are the so what are these? These are the classes that are created by the programmer. By the programmer. So these are the classes which are created by the programmer. By the programmer. Okay. With data and methods. With data and methods. With data and methods. So we are going to create. So objects we can create again. Objects we can create and we can use the data and those methods. The objects can be created and the data and the methods can be used. The objects can be created and the data and the methods can be used. You can create the object, and after creating that objects, you can use the methods and the data. You can use the methods and the data. Am I clear? Yes. Okay. So in that way we do it. So how we do it and all we will see. So syntax. So what are the things that will be there in the class and all I tell you. So class followed by the class name. This is the basic definition and basic syntax. Okay, so class can contain uh, um, class data, class variables, I can say. Data means variables only. Data means what? Variables. So it can have class variables, it can have class methods, okay, and it can have instance methods, and inside the instance methods you can have the instance variables. You can have the instance variables, and finally you will talk about constructors also. You'll talk about constructors also. So here we are going to take up the class name. Okay, so class followed by the class name and class variables, class methods, instance methods, inside that instance variables and the constructors. Okay, so this is syntax for creating a class. Creating a class. Okay, now we will create the objects. Create object. So object means I can say obj is equal to any name you can use, is equal to you give the class name. What you need to give? You need to give the class like this. Okay. So who is created? Object is created, and it is referenced to obj. Like simple list you created, no? So this is the list object. This is the particular class name object, and you can access this. So there are some rules and regulations to access them. I'll tell you. Hope you are understanding. Yes. Okay. So we'll go with the example. Right. So create the class with the class variables only. Class variables. Okay. So we are going to create class variables. So class variables. So what are the class variables? The variables. Okay. So class variables means the variables that are declared inside the class. The variables that are declared inside the class variables means the variables that are declared inside the class and are accessed by the class name or the class reference variable. Class reference variable. So class reference variable means this. Okay, so who is obj called here? Obj is called. So what is obj called here? Obj is called the class reference variable. Class reference variable. So obj is called what? Class reference variable. Okay. So how can you access the class variables? So you can access the class variables. You can access the class variables using the class name or the class reference variable. How to declare that class reference variable? By just saying class name into a particular object or into a particular variable. Okay, right. So we will go for the example. So let me create a class called student. Okay. So what are the data that will student contain generally? Student name. Okay, student number is equal to 4578. Student name is equal to, okay, right? Student percentage is equal to 78.96. Okay, right. So we created a class. Now, if you run this, you'll not get any output because it is logical. No, it is logical. It is not physical. So if it is like function, it is something like function. So you create the function, it won't do anything. If you call only, it will do. Okay. Now we need to create the object. Okay. So what I told you first, I can access them directly by the class name. Okay. So accessing the class variables. Accessing the class variables. How I'm accessing the class variables? By just saying student dot SNO. Student dot SNO. So here I'll say print. So student dot SNO, student dot SName, student dot S percentage. Okay. So simply if I run them, I'm getting the output or not? How, sir? Because you are accessing SNO, you are accessing student SNO, student S name, student percentage. Clear? Concept is clear? Okay. Next. Now I can also access, okay, using class name. Using class name. Now what I'll do, I will use the reference variable. Okay. I will say student S1 is equal to, oh sorry, instead of saying student like Java. So in Java we generally say that, but here not required. I'll say S1 is equal to student. Now what is created? Object of the student class is created. Okay. Now S1 is who? Okay. I'll say print of type of S1. Print of type of S1. What you got? You got main. So main means a file. Okay. Main file like that. Okay. So main file or main module. So for now you can just leave it. So what it belongs to? It belongs to a class student. Like list you got, list also same, no? List also same. So list also is something like that only. Yes. But list is a predefined class. So this is a user defined class. So student SNO can be accessed by S1. This can be accessed by S1. This can be accessed by S1. Done. So simply you run them. Is the answer same? Yes. So in this way you can access the class variables. So this is all about the which variables? Class variables. All about which variables? Class variables. Understanding my points? Yes. How they are accessed? You understood? Yeah. Okay. Next we will talk about class methods. Class methods. So whenever I'm saying class methods, so class methods means the methods, or I'll say functions. The functions. Okay, so function basically functions we call it as method because they are inside the class. So as they are inside the class, we call them as methods. That's it. It's just the name difference. That's it. Okay, but actually they are the functions one. Okay, the functions declared and can be accessed by the class reference variable. Class reference variable. The function declared inside the class and can be accessed by the class reference variables. Class reference variables. Is my point clear? Okay. Now, these are just functions only, I told, no? Okay. Now we will take the same thing. Okay. Now, print details. So now I want to print the details. So these details I want to print. Now, how can I access them? I can access them directly by the class name or not. So I will say, okay, I will say this same, okay, and I will run, right? Now I'm printing them inside a method. I'm asking student function to do the printing job. Okay, so here you are directly doing it outside, but I'm asking, hey, print details, you take the responsibility of printing. You take the responsibility of printing. Means whenever somebody is calling print details, you will give the details. You'll give the details. Okay. Now what I told you, print details can be accessed by directly the student. Okay, so okay, accessing the method, only one way, accessing the class method. Okay, now I'll say student dot print details, student dot print details. Okay, let me run this first, and then let me run this. Now you got the details or not? Now are we calling separately student name, student percentage? We are not calling separately. Directly we gave that responsibility to print details. Methods means some task. What is the task of print details method here? The task of the print details method is to print the values. Print the values. Am I clear? Okay. Now, now we will say, okay. So we will try and say something like, and we will try to print the details. So what it says, it will say I cannot access. I cannot access because, okay. So all that error it will give. What it is saying exactly, So I cannot access it by the class instance since I am a class method. Since I am a class method, I belong to the class. I don't belong to the instance. This is instance. So I cannot be called on the instance. I belong to the class. I belong to the class. Right? Is that clear? Okay. So in that way, you are going to take up the things. Understood? Right. So this is how we can work with the which method? Class method. Class. Okay. Next, we will talk about the instance methods. The method we have first parameter as self. First parameter as self. That need not be given with any value. That need not be given with any value. So the methods in which we have the first parameter as self, that need not be given any value. So there is no need to pass any value. There is no need to given or passed with any value. No need of pass. Okay. Now, for example, if you are writing a function something like def add a comma b, while calling what you will say 10 comma 20, you say no, 10 you pass here, 20 will go here. Now there is no need of passing. Self will be given first, but there is no need of passing any value to the self. Okay, right. So first parameter only. First parameter only. Okay. Now I will say something like self. Okay, what I said? Self. I kept self. And I'll do the same thing. Okay, and one more thing that I need to tell you here is this method can be accessed. Okay, so the methods in which we have the first parameter self that need not be given or passed with any value. So this method can be accessed. This method can be accessed this method can be accessed by, so this method can be accessed by the class instance, so this method can be accessed by the class instance only. Class instance or the class reference variable. So this method can be accessed by the class instance or the class reference variable only. Getting my point? Yes or no? Okay. So whenever I am talking about accessing it like this, so now print details. So what happens when I do this? If I do this, it will give me error. What it is saying? It is saying a was you are missing one required positional argument self, means it is demanding us to pass a value into self, which we can't pass. So what I will do now, I will say S1 is equal to student. Now I will say print details. See what happens. Understood my point? Previously, this was allowed and this was not allowed. In this example, this is not allowed and this is allowed. That's the main difference. Is that clear? Yes or no? Okay. So this is how we can talk about the which method? Instance method. So when talking about in the list and all, you seen self, no? So if for example, if I say help of ls, what you look at here? Okay. See append method. What is there first? Self. So self, we passing any value? Suppose if you are using clear, are we passing any value? For example, if I'm saying ls dot clear, am I passing any value? It is having self, means it is an instance method. It is an instance method. So there is no need to pass any value. So self, why is self then? Self is just saying that it is an instance method. You have to create the object. Then only you can access. These are the points that we are understanding. Yes or no? Yes. So that is the way that we work with it. Okay. So this will work and this will not work. Okay. So this is accessing by the class reference. Accessing by the class reference. Got my point? Okay. And then we will talk about the instance variables. We'll talk about what? Instance variables. So the variables declared inside the instance method. Declare the instance method as self dot variable name. Self dot variable name. So how we declared that? We declared that inside the instance method as self dot variable name. Self dot variable name. Self dot variable name. Self dot variable name. Okay, right. Self dot variable name. So they self dot variable name, any variable name, they can be accessed throughout the class. Throughout the class. So it is not like we create in one method. If we are trying to access, I'm not getting the access. It won't be like that. Okay. Now, for example, okay. So these things I will say df set details. Okay. So this method is what? This method is okay. So for example, self. Now, as they are created, I think that I can use them. Okay, so I created them. No, I am thinking that I can use it here. I can use it here. So then what happens? See. Now, okay, so this will definitely not work. Now s1 dot student. So I'm setting the details. Set to the details means s1 dot set details. S1 dot set details. Okay. Then s1 dot print details. Tell me what it is saying. Why it is giving you name error? Because these are like this is example for non-instance variables. Non-instance variables, or you can say local variables. Local variables. So local variables means the variables declared inside a particular method, the variables which are declared inside a particular method, so they are not accessed outside, okay. I'll write the point. Local variable, the variable declared inside the methods without self, without without self, and they can be accessed only in that method, so outside methods cannot use. Now set details has this, print details can't use this. Okay, now this is the example. Understanding my point? Yes or no? Am I clear? Okay, so in this way you are going to take the things into consideration. Got it? Okay, now we are talking about the instance variables. Okay, so instance variables, they are also local only. They are also local only, but they will have something like self dot. So what I'm writing here, self dot. What I'm writing here, self dot. So here also I will say self dot. Here also I will say self dot. Here also I will say self dot. Okay, so once I run them, okay, so now set details and print details. Done. Yes, correct. So in this way you are going to take the things. Am I clear? Am I clear or not? So these are which variables? Instance variables. These are which variables? Instance variables. Okay. Yes. So they can be accessed. See, they can be accessed here also. But here these are not accessed in the outside method. Okay. So simply saying SNO, SNAME, and S percentage are the methods of, are the variables of, are the variables of whom? SNO, SNAME, S percentage are the variables of set details. Are the variables of set details. Yes, and they can't be used outside. So here these are commonly used in all methods. Commonly used in all methods. Understanding my point? Yes sir. So in this way you are going to take the things like instance variables. And then finally we will talk about constructors. Okay. So constructors. The constructors are the special methods declared inside the class. The constructors are the special methods declared inside the class with the name underscore underscore init underscore underscore self followed by other parameters. Okay. The constructors are the special method declared inside the class with name underscore underscore init underscore underscore self comma parameters. Getting my point? Is that clear? Okay. Now what we are talking about? So we are talking about the constructor. Then how to call these constructors? It is called when the object is created. When the object is created. So object, whenever you create the object, this constructor will be called. Whenever you create that object, this constructor will be called. Is my point clear? Yes? Okay. Now we will declare. We need to specially call, right? Okay. So we will go for, okay. Now instead of set details, okay, I don't want two methods. Okay, instead of set details, I will create a constructor. Okay, self. So you can have the parameters also. Okay, we will have one without parameters and with parameters. Okay, so this is a constructor without parameters. Without parameters. Okay. Now, previously what you did, you said set details and print details. Now there is no need of set details. There is no need of set details because set details is not there now. Then how will I get the values, sir? You will get the values by this. Okay, what this will do? This will make a call to the constructor. This will make a call to the constructor. Student. So student will definitely make a call to the constructor. Then you say s1 dot print details. So the details are printed. The details are printed. Is my point understood? Yes or no? Is that clear? So what we did exactly? We said, okay, so what we said? So student means which call is going? This call is going. Yes, student means which call is going? This call is going. Now you say print details, which call is going? This call is going. Understanding my point? Yes or no? So in this way, things happen. So constructor is directly called by the yes. So whenever you see, suppose for example, if I'm saying list, means this is a constructor call. This is what call? Constructor call. List. You are using the class name only, no? You are using the class name, directly class name. Okay, right. Now we will see with parameters. Constructor with parameters. So constructor with parameters. Okay. So with parameters, how it will look like. Now I will say self comma s comma n comma p. Okay. Now I will say student. I need to pass these three things, no? Okay. I will say yes. I will say n and I will say p. I'll say p. Means if you are passing the values from here, those values will go here. Now I'm going to pass the values from here. Student name, I mean student number, okay, student name, right, and student percentage, right? Okay, where the call will go? The call will go to the constructor. The call will go to the constructor, and s1 dot print details. It will give you this details. Done. This is the points. Yes. So this is the way that we are going to take the things into consideration. Yes. Understanding my points? So 4128 is going into S, Harini is going into N, 8523 is going into P. So that S is going to self. Self means you can use it anywhere. So this is constructor and this is the concept of class and object. Okay. And then this should be followed up by the concepts of inheritance, polymorphism, and abstraction. Inheritance, polymorphism, and abstraction. Of course, encapsulation. Okay. So we will see all of them in our next session. Right? Clear? Points are clear for today. Right. So this is it. Okay. So we will come back tomorrow and we will look at the other things. Right? Thank you.